Okay, so I want to welcome everyone here tonight to our emergency forum. No to censorship, threats, and repression against those standing with the people of Palestine and opposing U.S. imperialism and apartheid Israel. So again, I want to welcome everyone here tonight, and this is going to be a very special program given the intensity of the situation and the stakes of what humanity faces. I am Raymond Lotta. I am a political economist, a writer for revcom.us, and spokesperson here in New York for Revolution Books. And Revolution Books is the political, intellectual, and cultural center of a movement for a real revolution. And you know, we have people here, I see from Columbia, we have students here, we have some professors here, and I want all of you to know, because I see some new faces, I want all of you to know that this bookstore is a resource, a one-of-a-kind, indispensable resource for you. It's where you find great books, it's where you find discussion and debate about the biggest questions confronting humanity. And it's where you find the work and leadership of Bob Avakian, the most important political thinker and leader in the world today. And Bob Avakian has developed what's called the New Communism. And this is a radically new framework for the emancipation of humanity. And as part of this new communism, Bob Avakian has brought forward what he calls another way, bringing forward another way. We don't have to choose between Islamic fundamentalism and Western imperialism. We can make a truly emancipating revolution to put an end to all exploitation and oppression, a revolution in which the liberation of women is a touchstone. And this is what you find here at Revolution Books. And again, I want to welcome you all to tonight's special program and call on you to learn more about the bookstore, to support this bookstore, and to donate to this bookstore, the beacon for a whole new world. So, the background for tonight's program is after just a little background of the last 2 weeks that all of us have been through, after Hamas's reactionary murder and kidnapping of civilians, and with the onset of Israel's barbaric, genocidal siege of Gaza, and readying for a horrific and what we know to be an unspeakably cruel war in which the U.S. is giving military support, intelligence support, and advice, and most importantly right now is trying to prettify what is in the offing for the Palestinian people, as I said, unspeakably cruel. And in the wake of all of this, there's been a wave of protest and outrage from students, from academics, from artists, and that in turn has been met by censorship, threats, and repression. People here in the room no doubt have heard what was going on at Harvard with the doxing. Doxing means the publicizing through the faces, photographs, addresses, names of the protesters who have been speaking out against the settler colonial state of Israel, against the apartheid of Israel, against the dispossession of an entire people, the Palestinian people. These students, these academics, artists have been doxxed. Here in New York at Columbia, there's a move underway to remove a tenured professor in the Middle Eastern Studies Department. These kinds of threats, you know, these attempts at intimidation are happening elsewhere. At Harvard, at the University of Pennsylvania, wealthy donors have insisted that people be disciplined for these actions, that professors involved or supporting them be put under investigation, that they are not going to give money, you know, to these universities. And then in one case, I believe this was at Harvard, people were told, students, you know, people were told, business were told not to hire students, graduating students coming out of the universities in retaliation for their just and righteous actions. And this is also extended to the arts. People may have heard what happened at the 92nd Street Y, which is a major cultural venue here in New York City. But the Pulitzer Prize winning author, novelist, Viet Thanh Nguyen, Pulitzer Prize winning novelist, was invited to speak, and at the 11th hour, his invitation was yanked. His program was canceled. And through the efforts, you know, in solidarity of others in the literary community, they were able to move the program to McNally Jackson, you know, a bookstore that we have very collegial relations with. In Frankfurt, at the Frankfurt Book Fair, which is the most prestigious book fair in the world, a Palestinian novelist was set to give a talk and also to be celebrated for her work, and she was canceled at the last moment. And this is in an atmosphere in Frankfurt, in Germany, in France, in which demonstrations are being outlawed, demonstrations in support of the Palestinian people. And here in the US, we're seeing similar kinds of things. And all in the meanwhile, the mainstream media are running their 24/7 cycle depiction of Israel as a besieged victim. And this should be a lesson to all of us, that the supposed democracy that exists in the US is only a democracy insofar as it serves the imperialists and their interests. And this is something that all should reflect upon, that this democracy is actually a cover for dictatorship. And that is what is being told to people when they are being threatened with discipline, threatened with retaliation for taking these just stands that oppose US imperialism and that cut against what America does in the world and throughout the world. And I must say, just on the way here, to underscore what is happening, someone sent me a text that El Museo de Barrio, here on Fifth Avenue, has now removed an exhibit put together by, I believe, two Puerto Rican artists in which they feature a Palestinian flag to express the solidarity of oppressed peoples throughout the world. That installation has now been removed. So that's what's going on here. And that, brothers and sisters, is why we're holding this program tonight, this emergency Speak Out. So I want to let people know what the course of events will be tonight. We're going to watch a brief video from Bob Avakian. I mentioned that Bob Avakian is the most important political thinker and leader in the world today, and I really encourage you to check out his work here and the videos. This is all available at the bookstore. We're going to show a short video, an excerpt from a dialogue that he was involved with Cornel West. The title of that dialogue was Revolution and Religion, the fight for emancipation and the role of religion. So that was a dialogue between Bob Avakian and Cornel West. We're going to show a brief excerpt that bears very strongly on the themes of tonight's program. Then we're going to hear from Alan Goodman, and Alan is going to introduce himself, okay? And then we're going to have a poem read by a friend. She will introduce herself to you. She will introduce herself and the poem. Then we are going to hear from the Revolution Club here in New York City. And then we're going to show a short little video of an interview with that Palestinian novelist who was pulled out, right, of the, canceled at the Frankfurt Book Fair. And then we have a statement that was sent to us. I may change the order, okay? But we're going to have a statement that was sent to us from some students, some Jewish students at Columbia who have been acting in solidarity with the struggle against apartheid Israel and the U.S. backing of that. And in particular, these students are calling out the attempts to quash protest, okay? So that's the formal part, and then we're going to open it up to you, okay? We're going to open up to everyone in the audience, your observations, your insights, your thoughts, your ideas on what's before us and how we should be acting, your questions.
And there's a very important example, negatively, that we should all learn from in the state of Israel. The experience of Jewish people throughout centuries in Europe and other places of being bitterly discriminated against and viciously persecuted for centuries, and then under the rule of the Nazis during the time of World War II, being literally exterminated, with 6 million annihilated by the Nazis, certainly ranks at the very top in the whole history of crimes against humanity. But in response to this, among Jewish people, including those who survived that Holocaust, there have been two different and opposite responses. One is never again. Never again must this happen to any people anywhere. But the other is because of what has been done to our people, anything we do from now on is justified. And so you find them founding the state of Israel on the basis of bloodthirsty ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people who live there, which is now reaching genocidal proportions. No. Our answer has to be the first. Never again shall this happen to any people, anywhere. We need to move to a world beyond all that.
I'm Alan Goodman. I've been a correspondent for Revolution newspaper at revcom.us. Revcom.us is the place to find the most comprehensive selection of the work of Bob Avakian. It's where you get a unique perspective on world affairs in every realm from the perspective of the revolution humanity needs. I've been corresponding on the oppression of the Palestinian people, their struggle, and the crimes of Israel since 2008-2009, when I participated in the Gaza Freedom March, which attempted to physically break the blockade imposed by Egypt and Israel under the command of the United States, that was blocking the essential survival things, the things that the people of Gaza needed to survive. So that was way back in 2008. The situation was already what Bob Avakian described and what you just heard, already moving to be genocidal. And now here we are. So, and you can find my writing at revcom.us. And I was asked to say some things here tonight, and something popped into my head while I was taking a walk. and it's a little bit of a work in progress, but it's very loosely inspired by a Bob Dylan song called Rainy Day Women number 12 and 35, which starts, well, they'll stone you when you're trying to be so good, they'll stone you just like they said they would. Mm-hmm. You acknowledge that the massacre of 1,500 Israelis, including non-combatant civilians, and kidnapping people was a crime against humanity. But then you ask, why is that not the case 4 or 5 times over just in the last few weeks, when 7,000 overwhelmingly non-combatants, almost half of them children, are massacred by Israeli bombs? You do that, and they'll say you're anti-Semitic. You insist that the current bloodshed in Gaza must be understood in the context that Israel, like you just heard, was built on the blood and bones of the Palestinian people driven from their homeland through murderous ethnic cleansing. They say you're an apologist for terrorism. You point out that top Israeli officials and the Israeli media plagiarize the words of the Nazis, the very same things that the Nazis called the Jews animals, dehumanizing them to set them up for genocide. And they say you're a Holocaust denier. You insist that morality cannot be selective. If the Holocaust against the Jewish people was a crime against humanity, why should any decent person stand by when it's happening again?
That's right.
You insist in academia that the current bloodbath in Gaza must be understood on the basis of accurate historical study. Where did this come from? You study the words of the founders of Zionism, where in their own words they wrote, "We know why the Palestinians hate us. We stole their land." You'll find quotes like that all over the words and the work, public work, of the founders of Israel. You'll find declarations from the rulers of British colonialism that Gaza would be, and I don't remember the exact, or rather that Israel would be a little, what was the word?
Ulster.
A little loyal Ulster in a sea of Arab basic rebellion against colonialism. Ulster, for those who don't know, thank you, was Northern Ireland, occupied by England, which was, in other words, it would be a beachhead for colonialism in a strategic part of the world. And listen to Biden. You'll find this clip at the Revolution Nothing Less show at revcom.us, where Biden, back when he was young, he was once, saying that Israel, for the role it plays in enforcing the interests of the U.S. empire, is the best investment that we, speaking for his kind, the rulers of this country, could make. You say that, you dig that up, they'll fire you from your job, they'll censor your academic or artistic work, which we just heard, and that was only part of the story. Their media will marginalize you. So first of all, who are they? Who is the they that's doing this? Let's be clear. Let's get a little beneath the surface here. Yes, there is a powerful Israel lobby, but the tail doesn't wag the dog. The Zionist fascists who you're going to run into at every protest, the one-sided to put it mildly, media coverage. Israel, 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 Palestine, Israel, 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 and on and on. Where does that come from? What about the fact that Congress, for all the fierce differences between the Republican fascists and the Democrats, is united that Israel has to get more weapons to slaughter the Palestinians? And I'm not counting a handful of opponents of Israel in Congress who are really just there to channel your anger into a dead end. The fact is that none of Israel's crimes, none of the wildly warped media coverage, none of the censorship that we're here to address today, none of the repression, the blacklisting, none of that would be happening except for the fact that Israel is a critical linchpin in the U.S. empire. As long as there's been imperialism, the Middle East has been a crossroads of what they now call their supply chain of exploitation and oppression. It's been the source of oil that makes their empire run, from their military to their environment-destroying industry. And Israel is an on-the-scene enforcer of all that in a very strategic part of the world. You'll learn more about that empire here at Revolution Books, at the Revolution Nothing Less show on YouTube, and at revcom.us. But in short, it is an empire of sweatshops and slums, of child laborers, from the Democratic Republic of Congo to Bangladesh. An empire of environmental devastation enforced by tyrants, torturers, and wars. So what does all this mean for us? It means, first of all, that we have to turn every move to censor, to fire people, upside down. We need to go on the ideological counteroffensive. We need to play our two strong suits, truth and morality. And we need to stop the crimes, the genocide going on against the people of Gaza right now. Then, very connected to that, we need to get with a movement for real revolution. Think of it this way. The day that this system is overthrown and replaced with the system that's blueprinted in the Constitution for a New Socialist Republic in North America, authored by Bob Avakian and available here, the minute that happens, the pipeline that feeds Israel's genocide against the Palestinians is shut down and shut off forever. And the new socialist republic will support genuine revolutionary struggles around the world. Finally, I want to make a suggestion on how you can strengthen your ability to go into the storms of division, polarization, debate that is raging now, and it certainly seems a certainty, there is an Israeli invasion of Gaza with all the escalated horror that would mean, that polarization is going to get more intense, more people will be in the streets, and there will be an opening for all of us in this room to plunge into the middle of that with the message getting to the bottom of what's behind Israel's crimes, the nature of their crimes, and the role of U.S. imperialism is ultimately responsible for all of this. And to win people to, and involve them in the movement for a real revolution. There's a lot of resources here, a lot of online resources, but I want to share one here that I think is particularly going to be useful for the people in this room. There is an article at revcom.us called "For the Revcoms, including people in and around the revolution clubs," which we'll be learning more about, Palestine, Israel, imperialism, war, the danger of even greater war and revolution, basic orientation, compelling agitation, and moving masses. And that's an article by Baba Vakian. It's a substantial article. And just speaking for myself personally, I don't know how other people feel about this, but I suspect I'm not the only one. There are mornings when I turn on the news and I really have to struggle to channel my anger in an effective way, because what's going on is so overwhelming and so horrific. And one of the things that I do to do that channeling, because I'm not going to let the people of Gaza or the people of the world down, and neither is anyone here, I'm sure. When I'm up against channeling that anger, I go back to this work that I just recommended, and the store staff can connect you with it. You can find it at revcom.us.
There are reprints here.
Excellent. Okay, so get a copy of that reprint on your way out, and get with the Revolution Club here. So you'll be hearing from them. So that's good.
We're going to hear from Chuyu. Want to come up and tell people what you're reading?
Hello, this is Chuyi. I'm a student at Columbia University, and today I'm reading a poem about Gaza. It's titled, "What a Gazan Should Do During an Israeli Airstrike." Turn off the lights in every room. Sit in the inner hallway of the house, away from the windows. Stay away from the stove. Stop thinking about making black tea. Have a bottle of water nearby, big enough to cool down children's fear. Get a child's kindergarten backpack and stuff tiny toys and whatever amount of money there is, and the ID cards, and photos of late grandparents, aunts or uncles, and the grandparents' wedding invitation that's been kept for a long time. And if you're a farmer, you should put some strawberry seeds in one pocket and some soil from the other. And hold on tight to whatever number there was on the cake from the last birthday. So this is a poem by Musab Abu Toha, who is a Palestinian poet who lives in Gaza, and this poem was written in 2022. Thank you.
Okay, I want to call Ruby from the Revolution Club in New York City.
Okay, wow. Okay, so I'm going to give you some good news. This has been mentioned, but there is a nationwide effort to get real revolution known everywhere. And we can, this is next week. There's a nationwide efforts, Revolution Nothing Less Week, October 28th to November 5th. And so, you think, all this bombing, all the horrors you see, what can I really do? Well, we are uniquely positioned in this country that oppresses the world to do what the world's people most need us to do, and that's make a revolution. And that's exactly what, you know, we are setting out to do. You know, the kickoff is on Sunday at 5 p.m. There's a fundraiser potluck here. And if you can, you know, help make that happen, and certainly come and talk to Brenda or Jane if you want to help with that. And the next thing we're doing is on, it's on your flyer in your packet, but I'm going to tell you about it. On Monday, October 30th, this is the day for the points of attention. And I think you have that in your, yeah, you have a card for that. And that's a day when we are going to meet here, and at 2 o'clock we're going to go to the high school at 135th and St. Nicholas Avenue. There's high schools, there's like 5 schools that come together there. At 2 o'clock we're going to go there. We're going to march there together, and we're also going to go to the projects in Central Harlem. And just think about it, these points of attention are a code, a clear code that we can fight for amongst the people. And we can, you know, fighting for them amongst the people and living by these things can show people that there's an actual way that the world could be, that we could actually liberate humanity. It's not just a pipe dream, but we have to fight for it. And you can imagine, you know, we need a lot of ideas and a lot of brainstorming of how do we reach these young people, you know, and so we're going to 2 p.m. gather at St. Nicholas Park, 3 p.m. marching. Well, no, actually, 2 p.m. we're going to gather at the park. So then on Friday, November 1st, which is Wednesday, is a day we're going to take Baba Vakian to Columbia University, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And, you know, people have been speaking about the importance of Baba Vakian, and these interviews, we want everybody to listen to them. And, you know, because people don't know. We talk about a revolution, but they don't know that there's somebody here that's actually figured out, you know, how we can unite the millions of people so that when the time comes, we could actually make a revolution. You know, and if you don't, you know, believe that, listen to those interviews, and then we'll go take that out and argue with people and learn a lot. And then Friday, November 3rd, there will be nationwide marches. From Harlem to Palestine, people need revolution. Stop the U.S.-backed Israeli war on Palestine. We need and we demand a whole new way to live, a fundamentally different system. And so that we're also going to gather at 2 p.m. at St. Nicholas Park, 135th and St. Nicholas, 3 p.m. march through Central and West Harlem, through the projects where the most bitterly oppressed people live, to the elite campus of Columbia University, you know, and you know, embracing all humanity and calling on them, you know, to fulfill our mission for the people of the world. So let us know, you know, what you want to sign up for and participate in.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I want to call to the stage Fatin Jarawa. Is that
Fatin Jarawa.
Fatin? Okay. Introduce yourself properly.
Thank you, everyone. Hi, my name is Fatin Jarawa, and I am an organizer with Al-Auda New York, Palestine Rights Return Coalition. I also organize with the Palestinian Assembly for Liberation. I am Palestinian myself, and I've been with Al-Awda for probably 20 years. I know, I don't look it, right? Yeah, so I was asked, actually we were just invited this morning, so I might not be fully prepared, but I was asked to talk about repression against people who had been advocating for Palestine, especially these days, whether they're Palestinian or allies, comrades. And I will address that for sure, and I also, if it's okay, have a few comments as well. So some of the things that I've seen, at least in the last couple of weeks, is obviously, we don't have to say it here, but I will say it, the immediate response to what happened on October 7th was complete alienation and disregard of the Palestinian people, as if to say that this came out of a vacuum and there was nothing that was preceding what was happening to the Palestinian people. And so when I saw representatives, elected officials that, not me specifically, but a lot of people put in office representing the people of New York, the people of the United States, whether it's New York City, New York State, the US, and not only that, institutions, right? Colleges, workplaces, companies, corporations, make those statements that really set the tone for the weeks that we have been seeing as Palestinians and people who are in solidarity with Palestinians. Because that basically gave the green light for all kinds of suppression of our voices. And not only that, obviously we have also encountered some hate crimes, and I will get into that in a second. So talking about oppression, some of the things that I've seen personally, and I've been trying to gather as much information as possible, because I'm in a million group chats of not only organizers, but just regular people who are Arab and Muslim, who maybe didn't even grow up here, are here for college or for work, and I like to network, asking, what can I do? I or my friend just got fired for speaking up about Palestine. I or my friend is doxxed. They found my LinkedIn page. They know all of the information about me. I don't know if you know this, but since we're so close to Columbia and we have a Columbia University student here, Columbia University yesterday participated in a national walkout for students. And I know what happened at Columbia University because some of the students who go there also organize with Al-Awda. They already started doing this, something called Accuracy in Media, AIM.org. Basically had a truck, an LED screen truck with people's faces and full names. And they actually went through the trouble of purchasing websites so that me, Fatin Jarrara, if I went to fatinjarrara.com, it didn't happen to me, they could find out information about me to call me. And the title of this was Columbia's Leading Anti-Semites. And why are we here? I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. But one of the things that I think everyone needs to be aware of is that there is a push to criminalize the criticism of the state of Israel, right? There is something called the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, and they have a definition for anti-Semitism that is supposed to be protected, and this is in itself is something, if you don't mind, I'm just a little tall, so is something that, thank you. This is great. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance wants locales, communities, cities, states potentially, to adopt a definition for anti-Semitism that is not just about talking about people who are Jewish. And I personally have an issue with the term anti-Semitism. I don't think it's accurate. But besides the point, it criminalizes people who, or wishes to criminalize people who criticize any action of the Israeli state to be something that is equated to anti-Semitism. there's a lot of problems when it comes to organizing around Palestine. And I just want to remind everyone that this is not the fault of the Palestinian people. The conflation between Jewish, Israeli, and Zionists is not something that we as Palestinians or our allies came up with. This is the result of the Zionist project that wishes to obfuscate this terminology to make it one equal the other when we know that's not the case, right? So there is already a way where I've seen like this, this definition has been adopted in some locales. I think it's either being considered in some places in Long Island, but this is something that we need to look out for. And there's also, by the way, I mean, I've seen it in workplaces where I've been, the Anti-Defamation League. It's supposed to be this kind of authority about, you know, justice and equity and inclusion. And I've seen it be used by people who are DEIJ coordinators, diversity, equity, justice, and inclusion, as like an authority. Like, what does this mean? What does racism mean? What does, you know, homophobia mean? Meanwhile, this league itself is Zionist, which is a problem in itself, but it's also anti-Black. It has a history of being so. Yeah, I've seen people, you know, use it as an authority to frame their work around justice and equity and equality, right? So there's something that I said about Columbia University. I've even seen situations where it's children who are on Zoom. For some reason they have a Zoom class, maybe it's remote or hybrid, where they, and I'm talking about children, like in elementary school, they have their profile pictures on Zoom as Palestinian flags, and they're being asked by their teacher to remove it because they're saying that this is not inclusive. We want everyone to feel included, and that's why you should remove the Palestinian flag. And this is actually something that myself, as a student here, when I was in high school and in middle school, it wasn't a Palestinian flag, but it was this that I was asked to remove when I was in middle school. Okay? So this is something that we see. These are supposed to be people who are caring for us, educators, representing us, serving us, elected officials, right? They are our servants, right? They are people that are supposed to be serving our community. And they have basically given the green light for the genocide that is occurring on the people of Gaza and the continuous suppression that is occurring in all of Palestine. Now, if you just remove Gaza from the equation, okay, if there's no rockets from Gaza coming out and whatnot, and I'll make a comment about that in a moment. If you're looking at the West Bank, which is where my family is from, there's been at least 100 deaths in the West Bank right now, right? And just in the past couple of weeks, the West Bank is so fragmented. My family is lucky, and I appreciate when people ask me, how is your family? My family is lucky that it doesn't live in an area where it's surrounded by settlements, but it is close, although there are villages that are closer to settlements in the West Bank. And those are the ones that are getting attacked by settlers who are getting armed by the government of Israel. They literally were giving out arms to settlers just yesterday. Where do you think they got those arms from? Assault rifles, giving it to people who either served in the military because of the Israeli mandate that you have to serve at 18, or if you have a religious exemption, you could just be a settler, and you could carry an assault rifle, and you could do the colonization work that way, rather than just be in the Israeli Defense Forces. So it's really bad. Like, you know, I'm sorry that I'm angry, because I really am. It's so hard to be Palestinian. There's times where I've said that I was Palestinian and that was contested, as if that wasn't a real thing. And what we need as Palestinians, first of all, we need to center the voices of Palestinians. That's the number one thing. I think that if you are really wanting to aid Palestinian people and really want to help them, It is obviously really hard to talk to people who are in Gaza on the ground. I mean, the poem that you read was really beautiful. I was thinking about it, and I was like, there's so many things that you said that are not possible. Turn off the lights, there's no electricity.
No.
That's right.
Get some water, there's no water. Turn off the gas, there's no gas. So if we can't get voices of the people in Gaza, which are being repressed for a reason. I mean, they just killed the family of the Al Jazeera bureau chief this morning. And I saw an interview, my brother shared it with me, that said that they knew that that was his family. It's as if they're retaliating against the few voices who are actual press for saying their truth, for just sharing what is happening. And for us as Palestinian and our allies, all we want for people to know is that this is happening. It kind of drives me mad that we have gotten to a point where there's 7,000 people who have been killed, as mentioned before, many of them children, because Gaza is nearly half children. We've gotten to this point that I'm actually starting to think that maybe people here in the United States really didn't know, which is crazy because this has been happening for 75 years. And I really urge and beseech you, as a Palestinian in New York, I've never felt so unwelcome and so, I don't know how to explain it, but the environment, and I love New York. This is the best city in the world in my opinion. But it feels so hostile to be here, and I know this is a hostile empire, but it's so hostile right now for Palestinians. And we're doing so much of the work. We're doing so much of connecting with people, getting resources, talking to people, doing interviews. I don't even want to talk to my friends who are from Gaza because I don't know if they know anything about their families, and I'm so scared that the ones who are really carrying the burden of the work are going to find out some really bad news, and some of them already have. But there's no time to even mourn. And we're not even allowed to be mourning from the rhetoric that we've heard from our government officials and from the corporations and from the media. We are being, what's that word? It's a new word.
Erased.
Well, we're definitely being erased for sure.
Gaslit.
Gaslit, thank you. This is not a term that I actually grew up with. But yeah, we're being gaslit. And I think there's a lot of parallels, by the way, between struggles of people here on this empire and struggles of Palestinians. Isn't it really familiar when there's oppression happening to us here that they say, well, what were they wearing? How are they presenting themselves? They shouldn't have been there. This is so much of the same rhetoric that we're hearing about the Palestinian people. They were saying it without what happened on October 7th. I remember when they killed those 4 boys who were playing soccer on the beach. You could tell that they were there. There's no way that they didn't know those were just 4 boys playing soccer on the beach. And what was the response to that? They shouldn't have been playing. When Shireen Abu Akleh was murdered, it was the Palestinians. They have smoke and mirrors for everything, arguments. They always detract and derail as if our suffering is not legitimate, as if our anger is not legitimate and validated. And we can't fall for it every time. And we can't spend time on it as well. Please do not entertain these little arguments, and my brother might laugh at me because we were just doing it at this protest that was on Wall Street. This is why I didn't arrive on time. But don't entertain the arguments about, do you condemn this? It is so insulting to ask anyone, do you condemn your own fight for liberation? And it might not be perfect, I will admit, okay? It's not always perfect. But I would never condemn anyone who is facing an injustice, who's tried everything under the sun. You were in one of the peaceful, sorry, it was you, that you were part of a peaceful convoy. We had the Great March of Return, and it was met with over 200 people being killed. This was a peaceful march every Friday. And I've just learned too, by the way, that the co-founder of the Great March of Return also was attacked. He lost his son and he was severely injured. What are we supposed to do? Wait for the world leaders to liberate us? And actually, I'm sorry, but I'm guilty of it myself. Wait for Palestinians in the diaspora to liberate us, you know? People have to take matters into their own hands. And if that's not going to be understood, then what can we say? It is unnatural to face so much oppression and not have the innate urge to shake it off in any way possible. And that is something that I think really needs to be addressed and respected. If you're not going to help us in the ways that you want, whether it's boycotting, divestment sanctions, peaceful marches, writing to our elected officials, we can't even say we're Palestinian. What do you expect of the Palestinian people to do? Thank you.
Just a few things. Feeling unwelcome in New York City, what you were describing. There is a poisonous atmosphere in the city and in the country, precisely for the reasons that have been outlined by our speakers, that Israel, plays this special role for the U.S. empire. And people are being indoctrinated, people are being whipped up, and one of the themes that we had for the program today is calling out the truth of Israel as an apartheid state is not anti-Semitism, it is the truth. And we are going up against, this whole barrage of lies. So the first point I want to make is you are welcome here at Revolution Books. And the cause of the liberation of Palestine, a revolution to create a secular state in which Palestinians, Arabs, Jews can live in a society that is uprooting all oppression and contributing to the emancipation of all humanity. This is a cause that we take up at Revolution Books because there is no just and viable solution to the oppression of the Palestinian people other than the ending of the Zionist settler colonial state, and that can only happen through a revolution. Now, we here at Revolution Books also welcome discussion and debate about what it's going to take. What is the road to liberation? And here if you looked at our flyer announcing this, we've criticized Hamas for a reactionary murderous action. But that doesn't hold a candle to the crimes of Israel and U.S. imperialism that backs it. And there is a question of what will guide, what morality, what strategy, what vision will guide a struggle for genuine liberation of the Palestinian people. And we open up that debate. What's welcome here at Revolution Books is the cause of the liberation of all of humanity and the need to open up discussion and a debate about what it's going to take. And one of the crucial hallmarks of the new communism by Bob Avakian is that the goal that we're fighting for, the end of a world, the end of all exploitation and oppression, the emancipation of all of humanity, If that is our goal, then we have to use means and methods in our struggle. And it will come to a revolutionary armed struggle to overthrow the system. But we have to use methods and be guided by a morality and value that is consistent with that. This is a hallmark of the new communism developed by Bob Avakian. So we open up this kind of discussion and debate. And as I said, this is a crucial question before the people of this country right now, to oppose these escalating moves towards genocide, the US support for Israel. There is no Israel without America. And there will be no Israel when we make this revolution in the belly of the beast. And the revolutionary struggle that must be waged, as I said, must be guided by an outlook, by a value and morality, and a vision of a world in which human beings can truly thrive. So I just wanted to say that, and I want to, because you, I'm sorry. Fatin, right, Fatin, I'm sorry. But because Fatin had mentioned what was going on, the doxing at Columbia, just, you know, this is part of that chill that's been cast in the atmosphere, and it's very dangerous. Because this can lead to actual physical assault.
Which it already has.
Yeah, right. I want to bring up, we have a statement from Jewish students at Columbia who are part of the action opposing that truck and that doxing, and we're going to have Mira come to the stage and read a statement that was sent to the program tonight to recount that counteraction against this truck, okay?
This is from a Jewish student at Columbia sent to tonight's program. The morning of Wednesday, October 26th, a truck with 3 LED billboards began driving around Columbia University's campus, displaying the names and faces of students who have spoken out on behalf of Palestine and Palestinians being targeted by the Israeli occupation. This truck was paid for by an outside conservative group, AIM, which is not affiliated with the university or with Jews in general. No one asked for this. In response, a group of Jewish Columbia students, ranging from Orthodox to secular, quickly banded together in order to create a way to block what was being displayed on the doxing truck. We purchased 60 black and white balloons from the local stationery store, distributed them amongst those who wanted to help, and the group ran back and forth between Broadway and Amsterdam, attempting to block the truck from driving and covering up the screens. This group of Jewish students engaged in trying to stop the truck for about an hour. The truck then parked for the rest of the day, and students of all backgrounds, including leaders of Columbia's SJP chapter, began to switch in and out. We continued using the balloons, but also made use of posters, sheets, blankets, umbrellas, and other objects that could be used to block the harmful information on display. The organizers of this effort created a group chat in order to continue mobilizing those who wanted to be involved in this effort. So after the truck left last night, we could prepare for the next day. Students went back to their dorms last night and created more sustainable posters to block the truck for the next day. This morning, we woke up and went to look for the truck. After our first spotting of it around 11 a.m., the group gathered and engaged in similar activities in order to block it. After being confronted by the NYPD, we changed our tactics and organized a demonstration that took place on Columbia's campus at 4 p.m. today. Students of all backgrounds, Orthodox Jews to leaders of SJP, joined together in order to demand that the truck stop doxing students. This is something that we can all get behind. Everyone's right to freedom of speech must be protected. If the truck returns tomorrow, we will continue blocking it to protect our fellow students. Our movement is growing, and we are proud to be one of the only coalition of students with so much diversity on board during such a polarizing time.
Can I say something? Really quickly, just a note that AIM actually paid for that truck for the whole week.
Wow.
For the whole week, that's why it returned. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, this is, well, we're gonna have a discussion soon, okay?
No, but I got a suggestion.
I'm sorry?
I have a suggestion.
Well, we'll get to it, okay? In a second, okay? I think this underscores what you were just saying. It underscores just how organized, systematic, and well-financed, these efforts are, to suppress those who are speaking out, speaking righteously against what is happening in Gaza and the U.S. role in this. We're going to have our last segment of the formal program, and then we're going to open it up, is Connie from the staff of Revolution Books is going to tell us about what happened at the Frankfurt Book Fair with the attempts to muzzle the creative voices in this moment. Okay?
We heard tonight. We got a post, we got something about an hour ago, a playwright, Akia Korthran, who is a friend of the store, sent us a post of a Palestinian poet. He and his family live in Gaza, and as she says, he has no idea whether they will survive this, and asked me to read his post tonight. And the poet was Mossad Abu Tah, the person that you just heard. He says, "My youngest child, Mustafa, is 3.5 years old, and this is the third horrific war he is living and hopefully surviving. Nothing practical has been done to protect him and his family. It's been 20 days. Mustafa was born in Mount Auburn Hospital in Boston before moving to live in Syracuse for a few months, where I studied for my MFA in creative writing and where President Biden studied for his law degree in 1968. I'm proud to be orange," meaning the Syracuse colors, "but Israel, and with the American administration supporting it in all ways thinkable, has turned our night sky into an orange hell." That's his statement. Okay, so I want say heavy. I also wanted to just introduce a little bit the Palestinian writer Adanya Shibli, who was canceled by the largest literary festival in the world, Frankfurt Book Fair in Germany. And as Raymond mentioned earlier, this is one of the first, and it really sets a standard for what, the world literary, heads can do. Her novel is called Minor Details, and has received a lot of international awards, the nomination for the National Book Award, and the cancellation has caused an outcry across the world as well. So I'll just tell you that the novel opens with the true story of the 1949 rape and murder of a Bedouin teenage girl in Palestine. This really happened at the hands of the Israeli army. And the second half of the book tells the fictional story of a woman journalist investigating that same crime in Ramallah decades later. And what we're going to see right now is a short clip from a 2020 interview with Adanya and the Pakistani novelist Fatima Bhutto, who's this person here.
I've not read your novel. They may not be familiar, but the story at the heart, the gang rape in the Negev, is a true story. It was a Israeli state secret and covered up for years. And Kodse calls the nameless platoon commander in Minor Detail a psychopath, but that's an understatement, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, also, I know often Israeli military crimes are being defined within psychological terms, and this is as if it's like not the norm. And the case there in Palestine is actually the norm, unless like you name all Israeli soldiers psychopaths, and then okay, can be. I mean, I know there are psychological effects of this condition, but I think this is what the novel looks at, this the normalcy within which violence can be a daily life experience. I was not really, for me, the reference to the real should not be something that much present within the novel. And actually there is a play with that. And there is also, I think, a reason or a rationale behind that, because constantly as a Palestinian, you are subjected to this exam of what you are saying, did it really happen or not? As if you're always exaggerating. You're always not precise. You always lack the means to present your story in the scientific sense. And I think returning to literature is exactly to say, no, this is not about reality. This is about literature. But it is also a game within that okay, let's relate to all these stories as fiction.
Yes. I wanna come back to this idea of the game and the playing that seems to happen in the novel, but you did get investigated by Israeli intelligence twice, isn't it? And they asked you once what you were writing about, and you said failed love stories. and they thought, oh, well, that's okay then, and they left you alone. Was that about Minor de Taylor, or was that about one of your other novels?
Yes, this actually happened when I was researching for this novel. So, in one of the trips to the museum, they arrested me. Actually, it was a horrific experience.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, they closed the museum, and there were this kind of 6 police cars waiting for me. They took me from there, and
so you were arrested for visiting a museum and research.
Yes. And actually, I never kind of there while I was there. I was asking them, I bought my ticket, so what's wrong? I mean, what crime did I commit? So they thought I was spying for some country.
Did they say which country?
Yeah.
Oh. It kind of leads into a question I had as well, which is that I wanted to know while I was reading, and then when I was reading about you, I wanted to know if your own research journey was kind of the model, I mean, not the ending, obviously, but for the second story. And so it was. So you did go to the museum.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is exactly what I'm like kind of really was playing with. I think this is the border between the real and the non-real. And because of this, what I just said, and this issue that you're always being attacked, that you will never say the truth. So what if we turn that this kind of attack on you becomes your tool for literature? You know, I will never say the truth completely. I will never write the fiction completely. You go and guess.
Yeah.
But this is, will you treat it as a novel? Will you treat it as a historical document? And I think this is a relation to language that you are born with in this context.
I want to...
Okay. Novelist, right, who was to appear at the Frankfurt Book Fair and was told that she's not welcome, okay? And this is kind of, a measure of the times. And, similarly at the 92nd Street Y, as I had mentioned at the outset, Viet Thanh Nguyen, Pulitzer Prize winning author, novelist, Vietnamese American, had signed a statement of writers and intellectuals, that were condemned, and the specific phrase was the indiscriminate violence used by Israel. And for that, he was punished. His appearance was canceled. But I want people to know that the other speakers who had been scheduled, the other writers who had been scheduled to speak at the 92nd Street Y for the balance of this literary season withdrew from the 92nd Street Y in solidarity with Viet. That is kind of the kind of response that is called for. And PEN, the prominent international organization of writers, essayists, and novelists, issued statements. And there is a sharpening struggle over this. So this is the state of affairs. And she had told that story at the end. I hadn't heard this before about being arrested at, right? It was at the museum, right? And this is the situation. So what I want to do now is open it up to the audience for comments, questions. Is Alan here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because he was saying, well, okay. So I want to open it up, to questions, thoughts people have, what's been provoked in your thinking by what you experienced tonight, but also a lot of people here, there are people here that have experience in the field here, over the last few weeks and just in general. Going up against this ideological offensive combined with the military support and the financial backing of Israel for this genocidal occupation. So let's open it up to the audience, okay? But we'd really be interested in hearing what people have been doing, how this has been playing out wherever you are, in your school, in your profession, in your neighborhoods, on the trains. What's been happening and how have people been taking this on? Okay.
Hello, testing. Okay, my name is Paul. I'm with the Bronx Greens. And the Bronx Greens are part of the Bronx Anti-War Coalition. So we're one group in a group of coalitions, and on Tuesday we did a demonstration in front of Congress jackass Richie Torres' office. And we got it's on Fordham Road, we got about 200 people there. And for the record, Richie Torres, most of his campaign is financed by a Bronx billionaire, Paulie Singer. Paulie Singer is a primary supporter of Israel. And remember, he's a billionaire. He's also a real estate guy who's gentrifying the Bronx and other neighborhoods in Upper Manhattan and everything. So we plan to do another one, and Richie Torres, in fact, one of the people there went to high school with Richie Torres, and he hated Richie since high school. So there's a lot of personal things going on. Or because he's always been a slimy, two-faced, using his identity politics to give him a fake left or liberal credibility. Up until we called him out on it, the majority of his posts have been in support of Israel. We've also confronted him personally at a community meeting, and of course we were all escorted out and everything, which was great because they're assholes. Not the people who attended, a lot of people were with us. And one of the big points of all of this aid to Israel and everything, that money could be used here. We need nationalized health care, we need all kinds of things that somehow is a big debate on Congress, but when it comes to sending money to the Nazis in the Ukraine and to the Nazis, and I call them Ashkenazis, they got no problem. All of a sudden, they can just snap their fingers and $100 billion pops up, and it's absurd. So I would like to we're definitely going to do more stuff in the Bronx because we're not a one and done group. It's a long struggle. It's a protracted struggle. We have to, it's hard to sustain it, but we'll make the effort. And, you know, so that's all I have to say right now, but obviously this system can't be reformed. But in the meanwhile, I think our job right now is we're calling out the politicians who are funding this, being very specific as one of the reasons. And then you get rid of Richie Torres, they find some other stooge. And AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is just as bad. They're spending all these billions of dollars to kill people. But when it comes to health care, oh yeah, well, we'll just let the Democrat, we call them Democrats, leadership and Republican leadership debate it all, and we know we'll lose, but that's okay because we pretend we're in a democracy. And when it comes to them, we spell democracy with a U instead of an E. So I'll let it go at that.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can make some comments later. And I got a suggestion for the Columbia, what to do with the LED trucks, but I'm not going to say it publicly. I'll just whisper it in her ear.
Okay.
Filling with paint.
I had a... Oh, wait, hold on. Let me see, just so I can see. Let me see, hold on. Well, no, for the record. Let me see a show of hands of people who want to speak, okay? Okay, I just want to see. So, okay, go.
Careful and hold it a little lower. That's perfect.
Hi, I wanted to actually respond. Thank you so much for putting on that protest. I was actually supposed to speak at that protest. My comrade Bill Doris, who also organizes with Alauda, was there. He held up the banner for Alauda there. The thing is, I'll be honest with you, I was so down and so depressed that I couldn't make it out. I live all the way in the Rockaways currently, and making that trek was, you know, it was...
I'm not holding it against
Well, I know, I'm just saying, like, I just want to note that, like, we're so down. Like, well, we're still working, we're still functioning, we're still showing up, but we still have to conserve a lot of our energy. You reminded me, too, of this woman whose name is Vivian Sansour, and she's done an incredible job of building a library of seeds, like a seed library in Palestine. She was supposed to receive an award at university, I think it's North Carolina East or something, but she couldn't make it because she doesn't want to travel, she's sad, like me. And she wrote to the university that she cannot come and accept the award, but she would like for them to read a statement. And of course, the statement was saying that, you know, that she cannot be there because she's mourning, because we're mourning. And what did they do? They didn't read the statement, and they withdrew the award from her. So we're seeing this time after time. And another thing is, one thing that I was reminded of is how we as Palestinian, just like the author here was saying, that I have to be so scientific with everything that I say. It has to be perfectly factual. The Ministry of Health just released a list of almost 7,000 people who have been murdered by the state of Israel. You have Biden, who said that he has no confidence in the numbers, and I think I'm quoting him word by word. Meanwhile, when he had heard of the decapitated babies, he didn't even see the pictures, even though he said, I can't believe that I would ever see such a thing. And the White House clarified that he never did. I don't understand. I mean...
Those were the pictures in his basement.
I'm just saying, like, us, I think that the people in the United States and in the West are very sheltered from the carnage that Palestinians are seeing and people in the Arab world are seeing. Unfortunately for us, it's actually, we've been so numb to it. Like it's not unusual for us to see the horrific footage that we've been seeing in the past couple of weeks. And we've seen all our lives, to be honest. But we have to literally, Palestinians have to do press conferences amongst dead bodies for people to actually believe that there is a genocide happening. We have to hold up our dead babies. How many different footage that we've seen over the past couple of days, they would amount to hundreds. The health ministry's list, I'm sure, is incomplete, because first of all, it's still happening right now. And secondly, there's so many people who are unaccounted for under the rubble. So I just really needed to say that. Thank you.
Let me say something.
In the back.
I was just going to say a few things about some of the, we talked about the doxing, but at Columbia there's been all kinds of assaults on the students. This is from the SJP.
Which stands for?
The Students for Justice in Palestine, who together with Jewish Voices for Peace is called yesterday, probably 400 or 500 people, and then a couple of weeks ago the same. And they wrote a very powerful op-ed in The Spectator, people can find. And they write about fears for their safety, physical harassment, doxing, verbal assaults mount on campus. They're being subject to put on terrorist lists and having, as has been talked about, their personal information shared. Students have the Zionist, pro-Israel people have spit on black and brown and Muslim students, torn off Muslim women's hijabs, labeled activists terrorists and murdered, and advocated for peaceful protesters to die. In fact, one guy that works at Columbia, a Zionist, self-identified Zionist, was recorded on WKCR, the campus radio station, saying he wanted all the protesters to die. You know, where's the outrage and the, you know, calls of this person's a terrorist or what have you? And the other thing I just wanted to mention quickly is the group Accuracy and Media that funded that truck. That's a big-time fascist, long-time extreme right-wing fascist organization that's gone after professors and students for decades. And there are moves now by these big donors and so on to try to force the campuses to shut down the pro-Palestinian student groups or protest or speech about Palestine. In fact, in Florida, just today, Ron DeSantis banned the Students for Justice in Palestine from the state campuses. I don't know if this has fully gone through. They're also Republican, some of the leading Republicans calling for laws, and some of them call explicitly for laws for any criticism of Israel. I think this was mentioned earlier. Not for supposed, you know, so-called acts of anti-Semitism, but any criticism of Israel to be outlawed. So I just wanted to give a little bit of more of a sense of some of what was, you know, happening to the students. I mean, look, some of the students, and I just have to say one of the most heartbreaking things I've seen from Gaza is young children having to write their names in marker or ink on their arms in case they get killed. Their parents would be able to identify them. Or another family put a bracelet around the arms. That's how gruesome and sadistic this Israeli assault is. But you know, the students have been, and you know, just one other thing, even the students are wearing COVID masks to prevent themselves from being identified.
Right.
So anyway, that's some of what's going on, and we have to applaud the courage of these students for standing up and fighting back and protesting in the face of this kind of assault.
I see another hand.
Yeah, I was actually...
Take your, just when you talk.
Take your mask down just a little bit, we can't hear you.
I was actually at the protest yesterday, the Columbia walkout, and there must have been like more than 1,000 students, as we talked about. But the striking thing is that there is no media present. And on the contrary, on a very small protest of like 6-7 Jewish students on like the day before, there is like an ABC media class. And I talked with actually one of the organizers for SJP saying why there's no media, and she answered that like it's because, well, like maybe the Jewish students, they call the media, and we didn't want to call the media because they always distort the story and distort our message and misrepresent us. And it was just so pitiful that like we come out, like more than 1,000 students come out, and it's, I can show you the video, it's just very, you know, like just very crowded, like so many people. And I was thinking, like, if we really want to get the word out, we need to have our own media, like to establish anything. We can't really rely on like the mainstream media sources. And I actually yesterday advised one of the SJP leaders saying like maybe we can, like, next time doing this, we can invite some of the left-leaning media sources. And she was like, oh, that might be one option. So yeah, I just feel like to get any like mass movement going, we need like to have our own media sources. And those mainstream media, they are unreliable.
All right. Other hands, comments? Yeah.
As a response to like, you know, how do we get media? I think one easy way to do that, you know, without having to like get a truck, is literally using social media. I think all of us acknowledge that the establishment media like refuses to display in genuineness like anti-Zionist sentiment. What is problematic with social media is often that like the same biases apply, but I don't see it being applied immediately. I do see it being applied absolutely. In fact, this morning, Eye on Palestine, which is a Instagram account that sort of showed on the ground footage of what's happening in Gaza. Unfortunately, it's awful. But it was up for a very long time. I actually don't know whether or not it's been reestablished. Hopefully, it has been. But like, it is like that was a mainstream source for a long time, for 2 weeks, in fact. And like being able to pop up and show yourself, and then, you know, if you get, you know, banned or removed, like you can just create another account. The only problem is you have to migrate people. So I would say the important thing is taking videos. The important thing is posting on social media with the consent of people who are attending the protests, unfortunately, because they can be targeted and harassed. I don't know. I just wanted to offer that as a suggestion. It's kind of obvious in retrospect, but it's certainly something that I was thinking about.
Yeah, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to say something. I'm Tato with the Revolution Club, and I'm a follower of BA, Bobby Bakian, and I just want to say, as revolutionary communists, tonight we all Palestine. We stand together with our Palestine brothers and sisters, and we want to defend anybody who's been attacked, taking this stand. But this is the right thing. Students, you know, artists, people are out there, speaking out like tonight, we all doing it. But I just want to share a couple of experiences that have been happening.
Max, just wait till you hear that.
One is that when we were in Colombia, right? We were holding that sign, and we...
What does it say?
Let me show you. It says, Israel, stop genocide, says, and we're against 2 million Palestinians trapped in Gaza. U.S. imperialism, stop your bloody arming of Israel. Hamas is not a force for liberation. The Palestinian people need a real revolution. And the people of the world needs a real revolution and a whole new emancipated way to live and way to live. So, as we were standing, part of the rotating team covering those, LED signs, somebody came to us and said, you cannot hide your sign here. You're just here to push this agenda. Even though we're covering the sign, the LED sign. In the different protests in Brooklyn, we've been told to take down our banner because we say Hamas is not a force for liberation. We've been canceled for telling the truth, for standing together with people right now, And we are also canceled because we're communists, revolutionary communists, and nobody today, should go along with this, We should not go along with these lying politicians, We should not go, for those who are fronting the system, those who are pinching against each other instead of uniting together right now, right? And we, the Revolution Club, and Breakums across the country, are organizing and preparing for an actual revolution, and we're not going to back down from that, because that's what humanity needs, and that's what people need right now. And I just want to say that because, a lot of people need to hear about this message. So I just want, don't let people intimidate you, and we are actually going to defend anybody who's been under these attacks, and stand in solidarity with anyone, who want to take this position as well. That's it. Thank you.
All right.
I wouldn't be surprised that people came to you and asked you to take the poster down. Because on Monday I was at CIPA, the Columbia School of International and Public Affairs building, and they were hosting a human rights. So Hillary Clinton was the moderator of the panel, and some United Nations official was also invited, and I was holding a poster saying, why does U.S. and Israel battled on water and food as basic human rights? Where is Palestinian human rights? And then as soon as I stepped into the building, operations people came to me saying, if I hold a poster, if I hold a board like that, I would need to get prior university approval. And I said, this is just expression. And he said, this is regulation, and I've never heard of such regulations. And then as soon as I get to someone walked up with me, and as soon as I got to the 15th floor where the event was happening, I was surrounded by 6, 7 operations, public safety, and other school, these people, and they asked me to show my student ID, and saying if I didn't have it, they have the right to kick me out. And so I reluctantly showed it to someone who isn't public safety, and she confirmed to other people that I'm indeed a student. And then when I walked down the elevator, someone who has a speaker kind of escorted me down. So that was kind of an experience. And also, by the way, Columbia University is closing its gates for especially so it remains open this week, but it just closes on Wednesday when the protest happens, when the pro-Palestinian protest happens. And it also closes its gate. Last time we had a pro-Palestinian protest. So it was just very reactionary, and but I wouldn't be surprised because the new headmaster was worked for the IMF and all that. So we don't know what her color is. But it's just so striking that Colombia is becoming like this, and it's in like recent decades, it's never like this.
Yeah. No, we're gonna. I think we'll take one. You want to say something? Yeah.
And can I also question also?
Sure. Okay. Let's. So we're gonna go. Alan wanted to say something. You want to speak? Oh, you want to
I
speak?
can speak last. It's okay.
Oh, you could. Let's hear.
No,
No, you can go.
I want to say before our demonstration, one of our members was walking out her building and she had like the sign and a pro-Palestinian T-shirt, and she was attacked. The neighbors of someone, the Zionists, came and started feeling her breasts up and threatening her and everything in front of them. And they had like little kids there. So this is in her own building and up in the Bronx. So.
Why don't you go? Okay, because then Alan was gonna. Why don't you make your comment? Okay.
Sorry, that's really disturbing and not surprising. I did want to say actually that the sign actually got my attention when I was sitting down and listening to you all. On the note of centering Palestinian voices, this is not necessarily my voice, but I'm saying one of the things that I've heard from Palestinians who are leaving voice notes to their loved ones who are living overseas saying, don't be scared for us. It's either that we die now or we live to die a million times, a slow death. But they also say that we, the people who are hearing them, hearing their voice notes, their loved ones, their friends, their family, should not be skewing the resistance, okay? That they believe in the resistance. And if it's not named Hamas, it could be named something else. So I would just like to note that this is the call from people on the ground, that maybe people don't agree with their tactics, they don't like them. You can ask me off the record what I think, and it's probably not the mainstream thought either. I'm not going to be, for example, somebody who would be cornered to ask the question that we've been hearing Palestinians be asked time and after time. However, I recognize that me as someone who doesn't live in a place like Gaza, that I have to let the people of Gaza speak. So that is something that I would love for you all to consider when you organize for Palestine. That, you know, you might not like their resistance. You might not like BDS. You might not like this or that. At the same time, I believe that the people who are fighting for their own struggle, their own liberation, they should lead the way. They know the way. In any kind of struggle, I would do the same. I would, ask indigenous people to lead their own struggle, and I will follow. I would ask black people to lead their own struggle, and I will follow. And that's just my ask, is that when we are talking about Palestine, we center Palestinian voices.
Okay, so am I on?
No.
No. No.
No.
You got a microphone there?
Now you are.
Oh, okay.
We just had to turn.
All right, well, these are important questions. I want to address the what about Hamas question from 3 dimensions. First of all, like I said in my speech, if anybody thinks that disowning Hamas is going to keep them from being accused of being a terrorist, you're deluding yourself. Get real. As I said, you say, what about the context? What, are you defending terrorism? So any kind of fact-based whatever is going to be attacked as terrorist. And there's both the repressive dimension of this in terms of the ruling class coming down on people. And I thought what Tatu was saying was, we're going to do both. We will defend people who are being attacked for opposing Israel's crimes, and we won't make a condition of our defending them whether or not we agree with them on everything. There's going to be differences. The second thing is in terms of the debate in public opinion. When these psychopath, but you know, it's more than that, Zionists get in your face and start screaming, what about Hamas, what about Hamas? I'm reminded of a line in the Christian Bible, which I'm not that familiar with, but I've heard this line. It goes something along the lines of, you can swallow a camel, but you choke on a gnat, meaning you can put up with the greatest terrorists in history, the rulers of this country who dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and killed tens of thousands of innocent civilians. You have no problem with the slaughter going on, the wildly disproportionate slaughter in Israel, but you are in a frenzy about the Hamas incursion into Israel. But then there is a question of actually understanding reality, what things are going to, what it's going to take to change things. There is no they for the Palestinian people. I remember back in, I think it was 2014, when I organized a speak out against Israel's slaughter in Gaza at that time, and I told a story of touring the Jewish Museum in Manhattan, then going out in front of it and blocking the entrance with a 20-foot banner that said, after the Holocaust, the worst thing that has happened to Jewish people is the state of Israel. And that's a quote from Bob Avakian, and I was surrounded by dozens of squad cars for an hour, you know, treated like some terrorist, and eventually cited for, and this was literally the wording on the citation, criticizing Israel without a permit. But so I told this story, but I also at this event, you know, there were different perspectives on Islamic fundamentalism and Hamas, and I was opposed to it. And a prominent Palestinian activist came up to me and said, well, I like that quote about after the Holocaust, the worst thing that has happened to Jewish people is the state of Israel, but I've got my own version. After the Nakba, the worst thing that's happened to Palestinian people is Islamic fundamentalism. I tell that story not to, well, he said it so it's true. I tell that story because there's many different perspectives among Palestinian people. I think it's very important to center the experience of Palestinian people. Everybody needs to hear this poem. Everybody needs to be confronted with these people holding their babies, saying, you know, does this count? Is this, you know, count them? Are they really dead or not? But within all that, we have to actually address reality as it is. I wrote an article at revcom.us called What is Hamas? And I read the Hamas charter from, now I probably get the date confused, I think it was 2008. Frankly, you know, and this is pretty much word for word from that charter, that the role of women in the society Hamas is fighting for is to bear children and raise them. That's another version of the handmaiden's tale that the Christian fascist fundamentalists in this country are trying to impose on the world. Yeah, this is the one. I wrote it, yeah. So I just want to close with 2 points. One is another historical experience. In 1978, there was a massive uprising in Iran to overthrow the Shah. The Shah was a Western-imposed dictator. He was one of the most brutal, depraved, torturing tyrants in the world, and a firm ally of the U.S. And at a certain point in the mass uprising against him that was going on, the rulers of this country and other Western leaders made a call that their best bet under those circumstances, which didn't turn out so well for them, but this was their plan, they were going to go with Khomeini. And they backed him. And I'm making a self-criticism of the movement for revolution here. I don't think, we didn't do anybody any favors by holding back criticism of Khomeini and what he represented. We did, but I feel we should have done more. The vicious, violent oppression of the women of Iran for refusing to adhere to the mandatory hijab rules, it didn't have to turn out that way. But somebody had to say, that's not a path to liberation. And if it's not, it's not, So, but I want to return to the 2 points I made at the beginning. First of all, no one should concede anything to these reactionary Zionists who want to shout, what about Hamas? No, what about you? And what about what you're doing to the Palestinian people? And get back to the point that we do need to, the repression that we're talking about needs to be opposed. And then within that, those of us who are throwing ourselves body and soul into stopping what Israel is doing to the people of Gaza and Palestine, and I appreciate the emphasizing the bloody repression going on in the West Bank escalating. We have to struggle among ourselves over what is the road to liberation, and that has to be a reality-based struggle. So that's okay.
Well, I think we should continue the reality-based struggle informally now. And I want to thank everyone for coming out, for bringing your experience, your insights, and the struggle continues because this genocidal slaughter is escalating, and it's on us. And we have a special responsibility here in the belly of the beast, the beast that props up Israel, to build our opposition to what is happening and to be building that opposition as part of accelerating our preparations for the real revolution, to put an end to this system, which is the source of all, the horrors, the suffering, and what we're seeing right now that must be stopped. And I want to end with that message, and we can share more and exchange more opinions informally. So thanks again. Sunday, potluck, 5 o'clock, here at Revolution Books. And learn more about the bookstore, get on our mailing list, become a donor, make a donation tonight, become a sustainer, and talk with our staff, and that'll be it for the formal program. Thank you.